I'm here looking out at the late winter scene here from the country home of Beverly Beers. We're here today to talk to Beverly. Beverly's a lover of the languages and the arts and travel. She's an activist and a spiritual practitioner and a lover of the land. She's lived and worked in France, Spain, Holland, and Greece, and was an assistant professor and director of theater program at Marywood University and taught French and Spanish at Western Wayne High School. She's currently a member in several humanitarian and social reform groups and participates in musical and theater events. Welcome to Time to Inspire.
Thank you, Beth.
So I want to talk to you first about arts because you've spent a big chunk of your life in the arts, and what drew you to the arts, and where have you focused over time?
I grew up doing a lot of music with my family. My grandfather was an old-time fiddler, and my father was a violinist. My uncle was a pianist, and he had a band, and I started singing with him when I was really young. For some strange reason, he wanted me to be on the radio. His band played on the radio. And I was 5 years old, and I sang Make Believe, and I can't imagine how a 5-year-old must have sounded singing Make Believe from Showboat. But anyway, I went on to sing with his band. I was just out in Beach Lake the other day, and I drove past an old bar, which is semi-burned down now, called the Big Apple. And when I was 14, I was singing with his band called the Country Ramblers, and telling people I was 21, I guess. But I had a great experience with that, and I just love performing. I love drama. I love theater. I love to be out there on stage. And one of the big venues for that kind of thing when I was a kid down here in Bethany was when our church had something called the Bethany Spring Show. And if you talk to older people in Honesdale, they'll all remember this. This was sold out crowds every night. This group of people that belonged to this church put on a spring show, and I can honestly say my family was a big part of that. My grandfather would always fiddle, and my uncle would be on telling jokes and playing the piano, and I would be singing and performing. So that's where that all started. And it just created a tremendous love of doing it. It was such a joy. It's a joy to be on stage, and it's such a joy to be communicating with other people. And you know, when you're doing a show, everybody's happy.
Yeah, I do know that. You guys, you and I have a lot in common with the performance thing. And so ears, yeah. So do you think having good ears has a lot to do with your language?
Oh, sure. I had no idea that I was going to have any proclivity in languages until I was 25 years old. I didn't learn another language till I was 25 years old. I got a chance. I wanted to see the world. I grew up here. I graduated from Honesdale High School. I went to a state college in Pennsylvania. I did my graduate degree at Penn State University. And I had never really been out of the United States. I had never really gone anywhere. And when I was at Penn State University, I met people from a lot of other countries, and I thought, wow, I don't know really very much. I thought I did. I thought I was getting a Master of Fine Arts and all this. And that was great. It was great fun, but I really didn't know. And after that, I said, hey, I gotta go. I gotta see this world. This is not the whole world.
So where'd you go first? You went to...
Well, the first place that I really went, I became friends with some people from Morocco, and I visited Morocco. So that was a strange, most people don't choose Morocco as their first country to visit outside the United States. But then I met some other people and got a job teaching at a small village in France, and that's where I really started to learn French. And it was really tough. I went there to teach English, and I didn't speak French. And the director of the school had the idea that he wanted someone who didn't speak French, that he wanted his kids just to be learning from an English speaker. But it turned out that I had to explain some things, and I would stay up 3 and 4 hours every night trying to learn French to explain my lesson and so forth. But I was 8 months in a village where nobody spoke any English, and so I came out pretty good. It's pretty good French.
Yeah.
And so after that, it was just I got the bug, and then I wanted to learn another language too. So it was great.
Yeah.
But I think the ear, you asked that thing about the ear. I didn't know that, though. You see, I always loved music, but I didn't realize that the connection there in language learning. And there's other things that make you open to learning languages, but yeah, the ear is really important.
Yeah, and people that influenced you in music, in language, and in
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about the social.
There are always
activism
people.
thing.
Whatever you find that pulls you, there's always somebody. There's always a teacher. There's always another person there that's doing that for you. For me, it was my family with the music, and mainly my uncle, who was one of the founders of the Old Time Fiddlers, who was a hugely popular group here in the area now. And he influenced me just by singing. And I can still remember him standing by the piano, and he'd be playing, and I'd be singing, and he'd go, not quite, and I'd say, okay, and we do it again. But I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And then, too, it was the people that I met when I was in graduate school. I mean, they were speaking other languages, and they were doing things that I'd never done, and I was like, I want that. I really want that. So, there were people that that really, they are the ones who really influence you to do that, and it's usually people that you're very close to.
Yeah. I was wondering, with all the travel and all, is that what influenced you to become interested in social reform and political and the political scene? Yeah.
And I can honestly say, I mean, the other big influence was my mother, who was a history and geography teacher, and she was always telling me, you see the world, and she wanted to know other cultures and all this kind of thing. And I specifically remember when I was about 14, I had this tremendous desire to bring people together and to see the other. I've always wanted the other. I always wanted to be with people who weren't like me, sometimes in a ridiculous way. I mean, if there was anybody from another culture, another ethnic origin and so forth, those are the people I wanted to be with, because I just felt this, I just felt incomplete with just being, especially around here, being the culturally and racially and so forth, we were very, we weren't, what do you call that, heterogeneous, okay? We were very one kind, and I always wanted something more than that. And then when I did travel, and I did get to see the world, it's such a nice place. People are so wonderful. And I get very sad when I think of any kind of dissension between people and any kind of divisiveness between people. And yes, did that influence me tremendously? Because I know, and a lot of times, I mean, there's a huge difference between people who have been outside of the United States and people who have never been outside the United States, which doesn't mean they're not better or worse people. It's just that it enlarges your understanding of the truth of who people really are, And yeah, I have a huge desire to bring that together, to bring all those things together, because it's true. You know what I mean? It's the way it's the truth.
Yeah. Can I ask you something about what you're doing now? I hear her talking passionately sometimes about the Green Party and what attracts you to that.
Well, I think what attracts me to it the most, actually, Skip Mendler, my friend who is traveling around the world somewhere at the moment, he's the one who was the most active in the Green Party here, and I sort of went along for the ride as the secretary-treasurer, and he was the main activist in it. But now, at this particular social political situation we're in at this particular time, I just think it's a venue for people. I think people are looking for something to identify with, to be a part of. And there are some people that say, I'm not political, I don't want to be political, and that's okay. But for me, very strongly right now, and especially now, I think of what Obama said in his last press conference. He said, the most important political office is that of citizen. And I think you do have a responsibility for the society you live in. Now, personally, when I was younger, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to leave. I didn't even want to stay. I mean, after the Vietnam War, I had a tremendous desire to live somewhere else, okay? But wherever you are, whatever country you're living in, wherever community you're living in. I think you have. I believe in the responsibility of the citizen. So, the Green Party would be a platform that I think a lot of people could identify with, especially young people, and for those people who they don't want to go Republican or Democrat. I feel pretty passionately about having more than one political party. I mean, I lived in Holland once. They have 16, and so they have a coalition idea where you take the two parties who have received the most votes, and then the other parties can then give their votes to whichever party they want, which seems so much more fair. And so, I just think, the Green Party was really based on environmental issues when it first emerged, and they have done nothing but get more important, and they are going to get more important. But then you have all the other things that go along with the environment. You have women's rights and all the other issues surrounding that are related to the environment. So I just think it's a platform people can identify with, and I just wanted to make it clear too to anybody who's interested in it that if you belong to the Green Party, that doesn't mean you can vote any way you want in any given situation. It doesn't mean that you have to vote Green. Okay.
So in looking at this overview of a life in activism and your spiritual journey and arts as part of your growth, how do you see this as where we're going as human beings? What do you?
I'm kind of encouraged that more people actually feel more open to discover themselves. I feel more so than when I was a kid. I think there's a lot more you can take right here in Honesdale and so forth. There's so much more art and music, and people are doing it, and they're saying it's okay to do it. It's okay. It's okay for me to sing and dance and paint and write, and be part of groups that are doing that. And I think people are giving themselves more permission to go in that direction. I feel I was lucky. Probably somebody, my family or somebody, gave me that permission, so I was able to do that. But yeah, I do. I do think that we're going more in that direction, and that's a good thing. And then that advances you and everybody else.
It is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank Beverly for joining us today, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Beth.